So for today's gospel, we have the parable of the Good Samaritan. Certainly, this is one of the most famous of Jesus' parables, and one that would seem to be quite simple to understand. After all, it's a very basic set of commandments. You shall love the Lord your God and your neighbor as yourself. Jesus judges that simple answer from the scholar of the law to be the correct answer. Actually, the only correct answer if one wants eternal life. The gospel continues because the scholar wished to justify himself, and so he asked, "And who is my neighbor?" And in response to that question, Jesus gives us the parable. Now, I suspect that the scholar of the law wished to justify himself because he did not understand this very, very simple commandment. Perhaps he thought there were limitations on what a neighbor is. Perhaps he took the first reading from Deuteronomy too literally, thinking that the law was exclusively something very near to him. For whatever reason, the scholar of the law, the person very well versed in the Mosaic law and in the prophets, thought he knew what to do. According to Jesus, plainly that scholar did not know what to do. The scholar, like so many of us, needed an example, needed to be told what to do. One very simple way to demonstrate love of neighbor over the last couple of years has been to wear a mask, at least while indoors, so as to keep from giving COVID to my neighbor. That's a whole lot cheaper than pouring oil and wine over the wounds of my neighbor. And it's a whole lot easier than lifting him up and carrying him to the local inn, and then going on the hook for their care. Sadly, many have not, and as a result, many have died. Plainly, the parable of the Good Samaritan has not taken hold in the hearts of many. But masking is only something I can do for the neighbor within reach of my breath. What can I do for my neighbor who is not so close to me physically, but should be close to me in my heart? Well, as a Catholic living in the United States, I have access to one of the most efficient ways to love my neighbor who is beyond my breath, who is beyond my reach, who is beyond my sight. And that is Catholic Relief Services. Catholic Relief Services is the international aid arm of the U.S. Catholic Church. They operate everywhere there is a need on the planet. And is there ever a need on this planet? Right now, there are over 84 million people displaced from their homes and 26.6 million refugees. Far more refugees than even in World War II. Catholic Relief Services provides these refugees, our neighbors, with housing, clean water, medical care. As you have likely heard, the conflict in Ukraine and the COVID-19 pandemic have greatly increased food insecurity around the world. While we are paying higher prices at the grocery store, those migrants, those displaced people, our neighbors who are farming or trying to farm in places with drought and with conflict, are paying with their lives. You can, of course, go to crs.org and donate, but that only moves the needle a little. In the next few weeks, Catholic Relief Services advocates and partners in the United States will be preparing to visit our congressional representatives in person and virtually to advocate on behalf of our neighbor, the neighbor. I would hope you could join us and demonstrate to Congress that we know what love of neighbor really means.